Hello, YouTube. All right. Just thought I'd let you guys know what's going on. I actually spent my first night in the Pontiac Vibe, and it was horrendous. Oh, as far as comfort, I would rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being really, really comfortable, 1 being absolutely worse. I would rate it a 2 or a 3. As far as the temperature and stuff, the AC thing that I made did work, although it kind of melted the ice by about 1 a.m. All the ice was melted. And normally that would be acceptable because I would have been asleep and wouldn't have noticed, that it was starting to get hot again, unless it got really, really hot. But what happened was, because I did not put a mattress in there, all I had was a sleeping bag, one puffy sleeping bag, and the comforter. I figured it wasn't going to be that long. I should be okay with it. No. So word of advice, if you're having to sleep in a vehicle, get the best bed you can fit in there. That means get the cushion, get whatever you need. Even if you're saying it's only 1 or 2 nights or 3 nights, don't just stay. A sleeping bag will do, especially when the floor isn't completely level. Because I folded the back seat down, and the back seat and the storage area was level, but the front seat, which you have to kind of fold down because the vehicle's so short that when you sleep in it, you have to take up the entire length of the vehicle, unless you're really short. I'm 5'10", so that means you got that front seat, which is about 2 or 3 inches higher than the back section. And I thought I could put my head up that side and it would be okay, but it was too high. 3 inches was too high for the head to be comfortable, with the pillow there. Without the pillow, it'd be too hard. And then there's a gap where there's a hole. So I tried to sleep with my head towards the front. It was very uncomfortable. I kept waking up every 30 minutes. And then I tried putting my head in the back, and that was better, but I decided I didn't want to do that because the fans were kind of up front, and also, I was trying to make it work. So I thought about going to the RV and picking up some cushions, sofa cushions and stuff, and bringing it and putting it into the Pontiac, the Vibe, and remaking the bed to make it comfortable, and talking about that today, and maybe doing a cooking episode. But I just got off work and got a call, from the mechanic, and it's from Marcelo at Express Tech Auto. They were able to get my van done in 1 day, and they weren't even open yesterday. Sunday they were closed, but he went ahead and did it. So kudos to Marcelo. He was able to fix it at very, very cheap. I cannot say enough good things about Express Tech Auto and Marcelo and Tony and the crew. They are just incredible mechanics. I think a mechanic, well, not even a mechanic, if you had enough money, you could fix anything. Because, in a worst case scenario, you get it brand new, you have brand new parts installed or rebuilt or whatever. But it's something else for a mechanic to repair a vehicle without charging an arm and a leg, to do it. I guess in a way I would say good enough, because my vehicle's so old. The whole vehicle, you could buy a van like mine for probably under $800. Okay, I paid $800 for my van. So, if repairs start getting too expensive, it's just cheaper to get rid of the van and get another vehicle. But Marcelo's been fixing it really ultra cheap. I don't know if he's giving me a super discount, which I think he is. But, the whole repair was under $100, which to me is crazy. I don't know what all he fixed, but I know he should have fixed the starter situation. Hopefully he's fixed the cruise control situation too. But I don't know if you recall, they fixed the air conditioning thing for $20, $26 or something. Whereas I've had quotes before trying to fix air conditioning in an old vehicle, and they wanted like $2,000. So, you know, I cannot say enough good things about Marcelo and Express Tech Auto. So if you're in, you know, the east coast of Central Florida and you need your vehicle repaired, you know, try to get in there if you can. You know, they're an honest company, an honest mechanic, and they will do the work, you know, in an affordable manner and get it fixed without jacking up prices unnecessarily. It's hard to find a mechanic that, you know, nowadays, you know, in a shop somewhere that will just do what needs to be done and not try to add additional fees and fix stuff that doesn't really need fixing. So, sadly but gladly, my Vibe camping is over. So I only had to sleep one night in it, which means I get to take everything apart, but taking everything apart should take me less than 5 or 10 minutes. So I'm going to transfer some of the stuff back over to Blue, take some of it to drop back off at the RV, and, you know, try to get the RV resituated. Although I might do some modifications to the RV just for the heck of it. But yeah, it'll be nice to be back in the van. I can say this, sleeping in the Vibe, the way it was with the sleeping bag and the comforter without cushions and stuff there to soften the unevenness of the flooring, was a 2 or a 3 at best. Sleeping in Little Blue would be, you know, just for comparison, if we had to go on a scale of 1 to 10, I would say sleeping in Blue is probably like a 6 or a 7, okay? And sleeping in the RV is like an 8, maybe a 9. Sleeping in a real house or, you know, apartment or something, in a real building with air conditioning and everything running all the time, to me would be like a 10, you know, comfortable. Blue has the advantage of being a little bit more spacious, so I can fully stretch out, but also because I laid out the seating, the bedding platform and stuff myself, it was leveled, you know, and of course it has the bedding cushion, the foam, memory foam thingy that I, you know, 3-inch on top of the sleeping bag and the cover, you know, the comforter. So it's just a lot more comfortable, and also being familiar with it. You know, there's something to be said about sleeping every night in a familiar environment, because you're used to it. Even though I park in different areas, when I shut the van down and I'm inside my little cocoon, it feels like I'm in the same spot. You know, it feels like the place. It's my bedroom. So when I had to make the transition to the Vibe, it was already feeling weird because it wasn't the same vehicle. And I will say the cardboard that I used to block the lights on the windows worked fine. Privacy-wise, I felt it was fine. The sunshades on the front windows, you know, not the windshield, but the front windows, didn't work so well. They kept falling down. So you might need something to brace it up. You know, when I hit it, it fell down, and I hit it because my body was taking up the whole length of the vehicle. So given that, would I want to travel in something like the Vibe? Possibly, if I had a vehicle like this already. It gets really good gas mileage. But if I had a choice to go cross country, I think a minimum with 2 people in it, I would want a minivan. I could do it in, 2 people could do it in the Vibe, you know, as far as sleeping and traveling in it. But when you set it up for sleeping, there really isn't much room for doing anything else. You kind of just lay there and sleep, you know. There's no kitchen, there's no, all that stuff would have to be packed underneath, where you could take it out and, you know, cook during the daytime outside. You can't really do it in the vehicle. It's just too small. But a minivan, even a minivan like Little Blue, you know, you could have 2 people lay down in it. You can also have a kitchen in the rear area that can pop up, or kitchen in the front area, mini kitchen, you know, with rice cookers, so you can cook while you're driving. It's just a lot more like a camper, you know, a mini RV versus a car camping. What I did in the Vibe, you could do in a car, especially if you could lower the back seat and put your foot through the trunk. So, it is an emergency situation that you could do, but not something you'd want to do for a long time. Although I've seen some YouTube videos where people evidently live in a car, and they're able to do it. I don't know if they're doing it because they want to do it or because they have to do it. Most of them I think have to do it. They don't really have a choice. It's either that or be on the street, and being in a car is better than being on the street. So, they were able to do it, and I did try it once when I was living down in Jupiter in a BMW. The BMW 3, I think it was a 320, the 321 or 328, 325, I don't know. But I had like an old BMW that I tried to stealth camp in, and it was horrendous because the back seat didn't fold down, so you can only lay in the back seat sideways. You know what I'm talking about? Like widthwise. So that meant you had to kind of lay and curl in like a ball. The other problem was it was hot, and Jupiter, Florida, is even further south than I am right now. So it was really, really hot. And even though I had a fan running at night, one fan, and the windows partially open, I had to maintain the vehicle and make it look like normal because of the area. So I couldn't fully rip things apart. Like I would have ripped the seats out and everything to make it into like a little house. But I couldn't do that because people would call the cops and stuff because the vehicle looks like somebody's living in it. Because that area is, when you're in an area like Jupiter and stuff, anything out of the ordinary, they always call the cops. So if they see you laying down in your BMW or what, even if it's in a BMW, okay, they will call the cops. And the cops will come and give you a hard time. So, I say people who can live in a car, they must be very short people, or they have a high tolerance to uncomfortness. I've seen people show how they go to sleep laying in the front seat. They'll recline the front seat and lay down. I did that in an MR2. If you know what an MR2 looks like, it's Toyota's little mid-engine sports car, and the front seat sort of reclined. I had to sleep in that MR2, and the next day I was all stiff. I couldn't even move. My body was all disjointed, and I was hurting all over. So I don't know how those people can sleep in a front seat, in a car. They basically recline the seat and they kind of lean back and sleep. But your body's not straight. Your body's still at a weird angle because the seat doesn't go straight flat, So I suppose if you had to do it, if you had to sleep in a car like that, it still beats sleeping on the street, even on a park bench. But I wouldn't want to do it. Just would not want to do it. So definitely, recommendation, get a minivan at the very least, if not a full-size van. In some ways, I'm still debating if I get another vehicle, if I want to get a minivan or a full-size van, an extended van. I mean, having a larger vehicle, you could convert it into almost like a Class B RV. But having a minivan, it's just a lot more versatile. You're able to drive into a lot more places. It's also easier to hide. It's easier to be stealth in it. So I had thought, with Little Blue having mechanical issues, of actually trying to buy another van, and I wanted a full-size van, maybe an extended van with a high top or something. Thought about a bus, but then I decided, you know what? As nice as it would be to get a shuttle bus, because a shuttle bus would be perfect. It would be about the same size, the whole body, metal. Whereas the RV, I really like having the RV, but the problem is because the one I had wasn't taken care of. It leaks and the walls are falling apart and all that. I'm constantly having to deal with that. I'm constantly having to fix it from falling into pieces. So I use it right now. If you're parked and living in it, it's fine. But if you're trying to travel in it, it could be an issue because pieces of it could fall off. So I'm still fixing that, getting ready to do the bathroom floor finally. It's just hard for me to fix it because one, monetary issues, two, time, but three, I get depressed when I fix one thing and then something else goes bad. Like even the whole, you remember the roofing was leaking so badly that the floors all rotted out, and we replaced the floor. Then we quickly tried to patch the roof. Of course, we didn't fully patch it, but I went ahead and put it together real fast because I had to have the RV functional. But because I did that, the leak didn't get repaired, so it kept leaking. So right now the RV leaks again. Floor's not rotted or anything, but the roof is showing leakage signs, so which means I have to replace all that again. You know, and the problem with it now is I have solar panels up there. And I know some of you are saying, we told you to do everything correctly, Denoy. The issue is time and resources. You know, if you have a house and you have unlimited time where you can park a vehicle that you buy that you're going to renovate, it's one thing to rip it apart, to gut it out and do it right. You know, if I had my choice, I had the time and the money, the resources and stuff, I would have taken that Class C. Well, I wouldn't have bought that Class C for one. You know, it was leaking and really bad, but it was what I could afford at the time. You know, I paid $1,200 for it because that's what I could afford. A comparable RV that wasn't leaking would have been about $6,500 to $9,000. So I got it for $1,200, and then I had to deal with the bad leaks and stuff. But knowing what I know now, I would tell you this definitely, okay? Do not ever buy an RV that has a leak. What you see is 1/10 of the actual damage. And not only that, if you're gonna buy an RV that has a leak, get a bargain price on it and be prepared to gut the whole thing out. When I say gut the whole thing, I mean remove the wall and the ceiling and maybe even the floor. All you're keeping it for is the frame. Hopefully double check the frame to make sure it's all not rusted through. But you're keeping it for the frame and the plumbing and the electrical. And then once I gutted it out, like removed all the walls and, you know, the floors that looked bad, I would actually look at the water lines that they have running through the RVs and make sure none of it's leaking. Might even run some kind of sealant on the inside that, you know, that's safe, that won't contaminate water, but let it seal so that any slight leaks or any areas that are weak will be recoated with that sealant, so that when you put water pressure through it, it won't squirt and go all over the place. And what I've known or heard about RVs as a whole, from, you know, I've joined like the RV groups and stuff, they all have problems, including brand new ones. You know, the ones that cost like $20,000, $50,000, they leak and they have issues. So RVs apparently just built like crap. They don't charge crap, they charge you a premium on it, but they build them like crap. So if you're going to get one, you're probably going to have to double check, you know, a used one especially, a bargain basement one, double check all the components. Knowing what I know now about RVs and about vans and stuff, given enough time and stuff, I would rather build one myself. You know, if I had a choice, I think a shuttle bus would be the way to go. It's wide enough that you could build like a little tiny house on it, and it's metal. The whole body, the frame and the body is metal, and you put in your own wiring and your own plumbing, so you know where everything is and how it's all wired, and you can build the quality, you know, that you want. RVs looks like they just slap them together and they don't care. I have never seen, I guess we would say, like piss poor construction, piss poor building than how they do RVs. And part of it has to do with trying to keep the weight down, but I think a lot of it has to do with they're just cheap. They don't pay their workers to do a quality job. They just don't. I think the people just put it together and say, oh, next. They just want to go as fast as possible and put out as many as possible, but don't really care that, you know, I've heard of brand new RVs that had stuff that wasn't even connected. Like, you know, they would buy it, the expensive, really expensive ones with the high-end TV and all that stuff, electronic components, and they didn't even finish the wiring, or when they turn on the water, it just ran onto the floor because they never hooked up the pipes. And that's on brand new RVs. So I think building one yourself is the best way to go. But if you want a bargain and you know you're handy, you could probably pick up brand new free RVs. People get rid of them all the time. I always see them on Craigslist and on Facebook because they sit in somebody's yard. Somebody parks it and says it's going to be a project. So they park it in their yard and then they don't get to it. And because they didn't fix the leak, it doesn't get better. Okay, it doesn't just stay at that level of badness. It actually rots and gets worse. So if you had a small leak and you didn't fix it right away, and you let it sit for a year, it ain't gonna be a small leak anymore after a year. The whole floor, the whole ceiling will be gone, but not only the ceiling, the floor and the walls and everything. At that point, I would not buy an RV like that. Not unless they gave it to me for like $200 or $300, maybe $400 at the most. But that's what I would do. I would not spend the money like me buying that RV in the shape that it was in for $1,200. I don't really think that was a good deal because mechanically it had issues. I bought it for $1,200 thinking that I would park it at Mad Max's place and live there for a year or two. Then it would have been worth it. But that didn't work out, and I ended up having to drive it and turn it into a real RV. And after going through all that, with the mechanical stuff, it's still not fully mechanically sound. It works and it runs, and I drive it around and I use it with my kids, and I live in it somewhat, on the weekends and stuff. But it's not like an ideal RV. And considering how much money has been sunk into it mechanically, as well as fixing it, aesthetically, more has been spent on it than I could have bought. Could have bought a better RV basically. But the issue wasn't that I had the money and could do that. It was the timing of it. I could only buy what I could afford at the time, and I could only fix what I can fix, how I could fix it at the time. So, but if you're handy, like I said, look for a free Class C or Class A or Class B RVs. People give them away, or you could buy them for probably as low as $400 or $500. People want you to tow it out of their house, out of their yard. And then what you do is you get it and you totally gut it out. Hopefully the one you're buying, has a good engine, good transmission, somewhat good tire. You probably want to replace all the tires. Tire replacement on an RV is super, super expensive. Because typically, let's say you get a Class C like I got. You got the 2 front tires, then you have 4 rear tires, 2 on each side. So that's 6 tires that need to be replaced. And that will run you probably more than $1,000 to replace those 6 tires. That's how expensive it is just to do RV tires. And then, then you got all these maintenance fees. And, well, you're going to need more than 6 because you got a 7th tire that I didn't mention. That's the spare. So you got 7 tires. That'll run you more than $1,000 for sure. And then, I didn't even get the thing, I didn't even get it aligned. You got to pay to have it aligned after the tires are installed. That's going to be about another $100 to $150 to have somebody check the alignment on it. I never bothered because I'm not really planning on traveling on that RV. And it turns out even if you do all this stuff, let's say you take care of the tires and everything, within 5 years, maybe 6 years at the most, you should plan on replacing every single one of those tires again. Like, well, 6 years for tires is good. Most people, when they have an RV, they don't travel around it straight 6 years. It usually sits parked somewhere, or they got some land, or they have campground. So it's just sitting there. It's not even being driven, but parked. And I know some of you say, well, even with the wheel covers and stuff, you still should probably expect to replace your tires every 6 years, 5 or 6 years. Because the thing is, if those tires blow, it's not like a car blowing a tire. A car blowing a tire when you're doing 60, 70 miles an hour, 70 miles on the interstate is bad. But imagine an RV when a tire blows, especially, if it's a front tire or something, the whole thing can flip over. So, that's what the situation is. As far as I'm concerned right now, like I said, I'm going to go Little Blue. I'm debating. You might actually see me strip apart Little Blue and do a complete rebuild. What I'm trying to do is actually reconvert it back to the original layout, which had a living room. You know, it had, but see, the original layout, I built the rear bench seat, but I don't want to do that. I want to get the factory bench seat, which I don't have for the rear. But I would like to try to get a bench seat in the back, and that way, when you have it all like in living room mode, you can sit back there with leg room to stretch and a little desk to work from, you know, and you could even have a little kitchenette in there with a microwave. That's what it had originally. So you could have all that. Now that I have solar and everything, it would be really nice to sit there and play video games really comfortably in the back seat and have video game, you know, and possibly run food through the microwave or something. But that will require rebuilding it. And the reason I want a rear bench seat is so that it can still carry my kids. I have the middle bench seat, which, you know, can be folded up to carry the kids, and then the back can be used for storage. That's versatile. But for living, you know, for the most part, like when I'm living in the van, the back area is just a bedroom and a little kitchenette behind the bedroom, you know, and that kitchenette you have to stand up outside to use. But as far as the interior of the van, the whole rear is dedicated 99.9% of the time as being a bedroom. I would like the van to be able to easily convert. When I say easily convert, I mean in about 1 or 2 minutes. Convert between bedroom and living room. So during the daytime, I could convert the van to living room and, you know, chill. And when my kids are with me, they can sit in the living room and chill and play video games and stuff like that, you know, with lots of room and really comfortable. And then at night, flipping it real quick and converting it to bed. So that way it has two rooms that function in that space. Whereas right now, it essentially is one room. And not only that, if it easily converts into a living room, it might even be possible to just sleep, you know, if you're not sleeping real long, in living room mode. I don't know, it depends on how much it lays out. A lot of it, you know, you can have it pictured in your mind how it's going to look and work, but until you actually build it and are sitting in it and trying to sleep in it, you really don't know if it's going to work or not. Like, that's what I found out with the Vibe. You need to get cushion. Otherwise, it worked great, you know. Don't just go with the sleeping bag. Anyhow, I'm almost at Marcello's here. I'm getting ready to pull over to Palm Bay and get the van. And just so happy that I got my little tiny portable home. I know some of you are wondering about the RV and stuff. The situation is this. The RV right now is in storage, but the storage guy is nice enough to let me stay there and work on it and live in it during the daytime. I just can't stay there overnight because it's not zoned for that, and the city will give them a hard time and could cause all sorts of trouble. So at night I have to leave, you know, when they lock the gate. But I go there during the daytime, and the RV is able to generate enough electricity to pretty much run stuff. Now, as far as running air conditioning, it needs more batteries. You know, it needs probably about another, honestly, if you wanted to run air conditioning full time, you need probably a minimum of 1,000 watt hours or more. I only have, I think about 500 watt hours of battery storage, and out of that 500, only about 250 is usable, because you know, it's a cheap lead acid battery. It's not a lithium ion or anything like that. So you can only use 50% of the storage capacity. It is enough to run the refrigerator, but it still kind of will drain out even with the refrigerator running in 120 volt mode. So I found that when I put it in gas mode, though, you know, where it runs off the liquid propane, the LP gas, that is the best way to run your refrigerator in an RV. It was very efficient because when I did that, my electrical system was able to use it for everything else. Like, I was able to have the lights on, like 3, 4, 5 fans on, and run the TV and the video game, the computers. And if I wanted to cook food, I could write one rice cooker, you know, sign out here. But I see some people on here. I'm gonna look through everybody. Hey, hello, Timothy. Looks like Timothy's here. And Mo Bang, good to see you, man. Connections keep cutting in and out. So Prius, those people who live in a Prius, kind of fortunate in the sense that the Prius is basically a big battery pack. The whole vehicle's electric, and supposedly, I think I read vehicle, and so, you don't think too much about it, about, like 1 or 2 or 3 inches bumpiness in a rear section of a vehicle or cargo section. But that's enough when you're trying to sleep that it feels like somebody is jabbing you. You need a flat surface, okay? Really, you do. And then you probably, for comfort, so that you don't feel like you're sleeping on pavement, you need to have mattress that will contour to your body, so that when you sleep, you actually get rested. Because honestly, right now, I am exhausted because I must have woke up about 20 times last night. I almost pulled out the camera to show you how crappy it was. I was like, my God, it's like I was waking up every 30 minutes. So I didn't really sleep at all last night. And, like I said, the temperature-wise, I had 2 fans running, one that had run the ice all the way out. It was comfortable as far as temperature. It was comfortable as far as me feeling secured in there. Not people were watching me because, it was all sealed up. So I felt like a little cocoon. It was fine. That's kind of neat. But as far as comfort-wise, I'm just glad that I didn't wake up with a crink in my neck. Because that happens if you're laying funny, which I had to kind of do last night. Anyhow, I am going to go ahead and sign out. I am almost at Express Tech Auto. Going to pick up the vehicle. If there are any issues or anything, I'll let you guys know. But next time you see me in a little blue, it might be modified if I get my way. If I can find a way of getting the middle seat moved to the rear. I just want to build out like the original layout that you see on the channel. If you look at the channel video where it shows it had console with a computer desk, and it had a bench seat. But that bench seat was homemade, in the rear, and it worked fine. It was pretty comfortable. The problem is for carrying passengers, it doesn't have seat belts. It's not rated for safety. So I would rather use a stock bench seat that has the seat belt and everything that it needs to have, to function as a regular van when it's in that mode. Anyhow, I am at Marcelo's. So take care, everyone. God bless you all. Please stay safe. And I want to thank you all for tuning in. All right. By the way, he's extremely, extremely busy, super packed. So I really appreciate him basically moving my vehicle in priority up. So that was very kind of him to do that. I think he worked on it yesterday when he was actually... All right. Take care, everybody. God bless you all. Bye-bye now.